So, hello everybody. My name is Ilke Bliki and I'm Brexit Coordinator at Flanders Investment and Trade. I'm based in Brussels. I would like to welcome everybody in the Customs breakout room, and we will wait maybe another minute just before everyone has arrived in this session. I think everybody's almost there. Yeah, and I would like to introduce Jeroen Sarrazyn, who's EU-UK trade expert at the Belgian Customs, and he will elaborate on the customs and excise aspects in the new trade relationships, and more specifically, what you need to know as the British trader when you export your goods to Belgium. So I would say, Jeroen, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Ilke. Good morning, everyone. Right, so trade after Brexit, you could compare it to making arrangements with an ex-partner. It's a bit awkward at the start, but I think the moment the emotions are gone, that we just looked at the factual elements, it can become a success. And so we know the EU and the UK are still important for each other. We are still special, but like the relation with your ex, we have both to accept that there are other countries as well, and you are one of the countries in which has a trade deal with the EU. And I see in my slides I wrote that the UK has a trade deal with the UK, which is of course also true, but it's I do mean the EU. But in fact, it's an advantage. Not being special is an advantage, because for Belgian customs, we have a lot of experience with dealing with third countries. There's nothing really new, and we are happy to explain what the impact is for you and what you have to do to have a successful trade with Flanders, with Belgium. And most of the things I explained today are in fact applicable to many other European member states as well. I will run very quickly into the Brexit context and also the figures, because in the introduction that was already set. So there are no tariffs, no quota, but there are customs control. As we know, there was a transition period which has now been replaced, at least in the UK, by still some transitional measures. In Belgium, we had to have some practical transitional measures as well. In enforcement policy, in helping out companies, but the legal requirements, of course, are the same. And then there's the special case, of course, on Northern Ireland, something that is not in the new deal. It's not in the TCA, but it's a result of the withdrawal agreement, but it still lives on. So that's the reason there is no customs formalities between Flanders, between Belgium and Northern Ireland, but there is the famous border in the Irish Sea. But as there will be no emotions, no politics involved today, we will not speak about Northern Ireland anymore, except saying that for us, trade is very simple, as there are no formalities whatsoever between EU and Northern Ireland. So what have we done? The last years, we strengthened the number of customs officers. The major advantage for Belgium was that we have no real new ports or airports, so they were all already accustomed to trade with third countries. For example, the port of Ghent that was presented earlier, but also our other major ports, Zeebrugge, very important for UK traffic, but the port of Antwerp, UK being less of a percentage of trade there, but an overall volume, a very, very important gateway into Europe for British trade. The only exception to the rule, which has nothing to do with freight or trade, is our Brussels Midi train station. That's where Eurostar enters Belgium, which is of course a new entry point for passengers in the EU. We've done a lot of communication efforts, one of which being today. So what have we seen as well? To trade with third countries in the EU, you will need an EORI number. And we had, like you can see on the graphs, we had some two major steps in new EORI numbers that were requested by to our authority. The first one, you might think after 2016 referendum that there was a major interest from firms to have an EORI number because of the anticipation of Brexit. That might have been true, but of course another element was that since 2017 there was an obligation to have an EORI on import as well. So those both effects were applicable back then. But of course you see in 2018 still a very high number of new registrations. 2019 was our own action where we registered a lot of companies by the Belgian Customs. We just simply registered those companies and we sent them an email. Are you okay with us registering you? If you are, just confirm the so very helpful, very business friendly on our behalf, just to help things out because Brexit was very rapidly approaching back then. Now, asking an EORI number or having and acquiring an EORI number is the first step. We have since had formalities and it has been a learning process for a lot of companies, Belgian companies, but also from UK companies. What have we noticed? That communication is really crucial. There are a lot of elements, a lot of agreements that have to be made between different involved parties, transporters, exporters and importers, shipping companies, customs agencies, customs representative. They all have to work together for some shipments. That's it's not easy, especially if you are having first shipments. The moment two shipments happen correctly, you can just copy paste that way of working and it tends to go easily afterwards. But of course, the first time you have a specific movement, there are things to learn and there will mistakes that are being made. So that's our main point of attention now is the quality of the data needs to be very, very good, because if you make a mistake on an invoice, that data goes to your customs broker. That customs broker gives the data to a shipping company, but they don't know the cargo. They haven't seen the cargo, so they take wrong data elements in their official documents. And the moment you have a custom control or you have customs document that had to be filed and controlled, you end up having provided the wrong information, sometimes without knowing where the mistake was made. So you have a lot of mistakes being made upstream that have an effect all the way down the chain. So that's if you remember nothing what I said today, please just keep that one element in mind. Values, quantities, and so on are very important in the customs process. We'll come to that back to that a bit later on. A little statistic on what Dan Schalk said earlier. The recovery of trade and the evolution of trade. We saw January very lowish trades, but quickly ramping up through March, and then actually rather stabilizing with a bit of a decline in the summer period. But I think it's a bit expected from just a normal economic cycle. But that proves the UK is a very important trading partner. This is based on value, so a major part of both Belgian import and export is UK bound. And on the number of declarations, that effect is even more outstanding. Why is that even more than the value? Because there are a lot of small assignments, small shipments. That's small and medium enterprises. Both UK and Belgium have a lot of smaller enterprises, specialized enterprises, but that do trade not only inside the UK, but inside the whole European area. And then you also have the effect of e-commerce. So e-commerce, that's why we have, although the value, like we saw in value, there is more export from Belgium to the UK, but in number of declaration, the UK trade beats Belgian trade, and that has to do with e-commerce. We've even seen this summer that there are a little less e-commerce due to new e-commerce rules, which I will not explain today. That's a whole different webinar. Right, so the homework I referred to earlier. If you want to trade with Flanders or with the EU for that matter, first thing is check your Incoterms. Why is that? Because your Incoterms on your invoice you make with your trading partners, it says who is responsible for what. If you make an X works sale, you are not responsible for anything after the sale. So you just deliver the goods at your premises, at your factory, at your shop. But that's not really that client friendly, is it? You expect them to pick up the goods, but you also expect them to export. It wasn't a problem before Brexit. It is a bit of an annoyance after in the current situation. If you sell to a major globalized firm, that probably won't be a big issue. But if you, for example, if you trade between a medium enterprise and another medium enterprise, there are other options of doing it. You meet each other in the middle, because the other part is doing a DDP sale. So wherever the taxes, duty delivery paid, is the abbreviation. That means all taxes are inside your sales, your invoice. So that means your client has to receive the package free of customs at their premises in the EU. So you have to be able to do that, and that's not that obvious. So most of the time you meet each other in the middle, FCA and so on, where, for example, you export the goods, you make them available at a UK port, or even bring them to an EU port where the customers can pick them up and arrange the import. The case study I will present at the end of this presentation will use one of those intermediate terms. So do you have an EOR number in the UK, maybe in the EU? Do you know customs legislation? Do you know the processes? Do you know how a customs document works? That's everything that you need to check those boxes in order to trade. The last thing I told, which is not with our listed, it's not a customs requirement, but if you couple your software, your company's software to, for example, customs systems, the chances of making mistakes is reduced. So it's something we very much would encourage. Right, this is the customs document. It might be new for some people, might be very known for others. It's the start of everything that happens in customs. It says what you are importing, how much of it you are importing, what's the value of the goods, and also what's the origin of the goods. For example, if you use the TCA, the trade agreement, you don't have to pay any import taxes on UK goods, but of course you have to prove they are UK goods. You cannot just say, I don't care where they come from, because otherwise my administration will just ask import duties, because it might be possible that these are Malaysian or Chinese or Japanese goods that you simply acquired and resell to the EU. And that's, of course, you cannot use the TCA if you do that kind of movement. And that's also the reason I say the quality of the data is important, because a custom broker will fill in this custom document based on your commercial data, based on the data you provide to them. So if you provide wrong weights, wrong values, or wrong quantities, this document will be wrong, and that's like filing a wrong tax return. You get into different levels of trouble with the customs organization. That's very schematic how import works. So export works from the European Union, and that's how import works. But we will see that in our specific case, which is a bit easier to understand. But it's to be complete that I given this schematic. Right, then I wanted to use the main part of my time to have a practical case, but I would first open the floor for any questions that might have been here already before we start the practical case.
At this point, there are not yet questions coming in, so if nobody has questions, then Jeroen, you can continue.
Yeah, so that might be a sign that everything was very clear, or rather the opposite of it. I will just leave that in the middle. Right. So I've taken some recognizable British and Belgium goods to for this case. So we have a it's possible to get any reason why goods may have failed to be exported rather than just sent back. Do you actually mean export or rather import? A failure to export is very, very uncommon. It's more common that, for example, at the EU border, you lack a certain certificate, for example, and that goods cannot enter or they lack safety standards, they lack product standards, and they cannot enter. In that case, you have to either destroy them or get them back. So that might be a reason. Then you use a Rex. Yeah.
Yeah, I think maybe Peter is asking if you make a mistake, maybe do you get informed by customs, or is it just sending back the goods, or the goods are destroyed? I think maybe the question goes in that direction.
Right. If you have made mistakes, yeah. If you are the one that noticed the mistake before there is a customs control, there you can always correct it. But the moment you are selected for control, it's a bit too late to start changing the things. But then, of course, it's you have to pay additional costs, and sometimes you receive a fine. But it depends on the infringement you have. For example, in SPS matters, there won't be a customs fine if you make a mistake, but the goods can be, for example, refused by the food agency. So that's it depends on the type of goods. For example, if you do an illegal arms export or something, that's a rather bigger mistake than just having a mistake on a description of the goods, where customs would say, yeah, you said you were importing trousers, but actually you were importing skirts. There will be, for example, might be a higher customs tariff, and we will say you have to pay an additional cost and maybe a fine for customs.
Okay, thank you. I see 4 more questions came in.
Yeah.
I can just maybe ask those questions, and then you can continue with the case. So there's one question: can you use a Rex number in place of an AORI number, or vice versa?
Yeah, in the EU, it's always a Rex number, unless there is small under a certain. Is it 6,000 euros?
6,000 euro. Yeah.
You aren't required to use a Rex number, but I'm not sure when to use an EORI number in the UK. I think under the TCA, your EORI number functions as a Rex number, but I'm not that sure about it. We have a practical guidance on our website, but about the EU application, but I'm not sure how the origin and the TCA on the British side works. That's rather a question for or the UK administration?
Okay, I will maybe later on look it up and post a link in the chat because it's online.
Thank you.
Then the next question is, are all goods imported from UK duty-free?
No, they are certainly not. That's something I explained earlier with the example from goods actually being from, for example, China. And the origin is they come from the UK, but the origin is China. So you have to be able to prove that goods are manufactured or acquired in the UK, and then they are duty free under the TCA. So that includes every agricultural product that is made in the UK, every manufactured goods, as long as they are manufactured enough. Enough have to happen in the UK. So that's mainly a value thing. If more than half of the value or more than half of the parts of the goods is manufactured in the UK, that will be considered a UK good, and that is free of duty when importing in the EU, and of course when using the correct codes on the customs form for to make an application of the TCA.
Okay, thank you. I see that Peter also mentioned often it is for samples or for smaller shipments. We see. If I can elaborate on that, we see a lot of problems with e-commerce with small packages because there are new rules and new VAT rules.
Yeah.
But if you have questions about if you have particular questions about that, we can do the follow up after the webinar with your particular case. I would propose. And then there's another question. When we talk about tech, how modern is the e-customs declaration process, or are companies dealing with legacy tech? I know that UK is currently transitioning from Chief to CDS, which is a modern e-customs declaration system.
Yeah. Well, Belgium has the same evolution that we are also modernizing more or less our current system, but I wouldn't call our current system a legacy system. It's very much functional, but the evolutions are towards third-party systems being linked to the customs system. So many clients and many companies in Belgium, in fact, never see the customs systems because they work with software providers, or very importantly, they use port community systems, and these are systems in the major Belgian ports that are in fact connected to the customs systems and that perform certain roles. But the customs system is very much functional in Belgium. It had been tested for the higher volumes required by the exit of the new volume that the UK would generate, and it withstood that test perfectly, and we hadn't have major hiccups since the 1st of January.
Okay, thank you, and thank you for the questions. I would propose to continue the case study right now.
Yeah, right. So that's if people don't recognize the shapes I used for the country, so that's a very British symbol, and then our little man in Brussels, but he wears a customs uniform for the occasion. Right. We will be importing in this border control point in the port of Zeebrugge, which is a major access hub for British trade. So the trailer used in the case will be imported here, and you can choose with a British port of export. So I was a bit distracted by the questions. So it's the port of export in the UK is not listed, but you can make up any one you want. Right. So we start out, and I must say my screen is very small to read with you, but we start out with the seller, the British Leyland Cars, that sells car parts to the EU importer. It's DDT or K cars, it's called, and they have an EORI number, so they can export. They aren't making their customs formality themselves. They have their trailer operator, their logistical firms that does both the transport port, but also does the customs arrangement. So a very good partner in the process, as they do both. They also have contacted a trailer operator they know in Belgium, just to arrange a transport from Zeebrugge to the final importer. So the customs agent, in fact, he's both. He loads the goods at the premises of BL, and then pre-submits a safety and secure declaration into Chief, because CDF is not operational yet in the example, of course. And Chief gives the permission to progress to the declarant, which is Winston Logistics. And that's I haven't learned this by heart, of course, and that's very small in this. So if there were a check, no prohibition to pass, he would have to go to a place to have a control. But in this case, his P2P is generated, and he gets the logistical firm gets a UCN, a unique consigned number, which he uses to make a booking with the ferry operator. So the ferry operator knows the goods can leave the territory of the UK. So the trailer with the goods is delivered to the port terminal. Winston Logistics uses his number for the at the booking, and therefore he gains access to the ship. Then the ferry operator makes the booking. He clears the inventory system in his UK terminal, and he probably also it's not on the scheme, but he will also confirm the exit of the goods outside of the UK. Then we start, in fact, the Belgian process, the EU process, because the ferry operator has to lodge an entry summary declaration to Belgian Customs. He does that on the basis of information provided by the customs agent. That's based again on the invoice, and then we come to the issues. Here you see, if BL gave the wrong information to Winston Logistics, Winston Logistics would have given the wrong information to the ferry operator, and that's the problem or the issue I've noticed and I explained earlier. What happens with that bill of lading of the ship? It becomes in Belgium a summary temporary storage declaration. So all goods go into the system of temporary storage in Belgium, which is 90-day system, and after that 90 days, at last, after the 90 days, you have to give final destinations to the goods. If you want to do it immediately, that's of course very much fine. And then when the ship arrives, the port authority will give an arrival notification to Belgian Customs. And of course, the goods enter that system of temporary storage that I already explained. DDT has a customs broker that works in direct representation in Belgium. So that's someone who works in the name of DDT. So he uses his EORI number and any authorizations he has. For example, if you can go, if DDT has a license or a customs authorization, that means that goods can go directly to his premises instead of passing through a customs office. It can be used as the customs broker works in direct representation at DDT. So he lodges a declaration into in the Belgian Customs Administration's system. We do an electronic check, and based on AO status, based on origin of the goods, but also the type of goods and so on. In this case, we release the goods, and the trailer operator Albert can pick up those goods at the port, at the terminal of the shipping line. He uses his movement reference number. He can prove he is cleared, and he picks up the goods and moves them to DDT. He doesn't immediately. It was not a declaration to put them on the EU market directly, because he doesn't know when he will make the sell. So he puts them in warehousing, which is perfectly possible. You can clear the temporary storage regime with the warehousing system, and from a warehouse, so that's the duties are suspended. Any VAT is suspended, and then during the following months or even longer, DDT can choose when to release these goods from his warehousing. And in this case, he even exports some of those goods back to the UK, or I think in the example, it was for the United States market. So in fact, those goods never even entered the EU markets. But that's possible. You put 100 pieces under warehousing. You can, for example, you can import 80 of those. You can re-export 10 of those, and for example, with perishables, you could say, for example, 10 of these goods are no longer fit for consumption, and you say to the Customs Administration, we want to 10 of those are lost, and Customs will of course control that, whether that is actually the case, and will not calculate the rights on import, as the goods have obviously not been put on the EU market. Right. If you want to take this step a bit further, for example, you have machinery that is installed in EU products, and you want to re-import them into the UK. This is in fact not the best example, because there are a lot of exemptions on aircraft, certainly any military aircraft, but you get the point. Just take a car engine, put it in a car. You don't want to pay any duties on the UK engine that is installed, of course. So you can put them under a customs authorization. In this case, the engine would be placed under something called outward processing. So that means if the aircraft returns to the UK, you only have to pay duties on the added value. So the VAT on the added value of the aircraft, and not on the original engine. The system is also used when you want to, for example, repair goods. If you want to repair or revise or improve goods in the EU, or you have for example, an EU customer. You have sold a machinery to an EU customer, and you need to repair that machine for the EU customer. You won't be exporting and importing and re-exporting that machinery. No, you can put them under these kinds of authorizations. It's called outward processing if something goes elsewhere. If something is imported and you want to re-export it after you make the changes or you make the manufacturing, it's called inward processing. In the case I've listed that as well, but as of course I'm having this very small text again, I will just show it here for reference afterwards if you look at the presentation. But the main thing about customs authorization is it either saves time, it either saves money, or it either saves a lot of paperwork. Sometimes it does all the three things at once, and that's why they are very interesting. And my administration will be happy to guide you through to any authorizations you would need. That being said, of course, authorizations will be asked. Can only be asked by if you are an EU if you have an EU entity. So if you are based only in the UK, you cannot, of course, obtain an EU authorization. But if you have, for example, if you have an entity both in the UK and in the European Union with a certain production facility or something like that, or maybe even a commercial sales office, you can, but just you have a fixed installation you are based in the EU, you can ask for those customs authorizations with our administration. Everything about these authorizations is on our websites, most of them in English as well. What I've explained today is also graphically on our website. I assume you didn't write everything down that was being said in the last 20 minutes. So you can look at our website if you want to know more about the flows into Belgium and the EU. So I hope that no one got even more confused and is now less convinced of importing into Flanders, because the main thing is the system. We are well known to import. Both the administration but also the logistics sector in Flanders is very much used to importing goods from all over the world, and they will happily help you with your process. Thank you very much for the attention, and let's hear the final questions.
Yeah, thank you, Jeroen. So yeah, main message indeed is that we're really open to help everybody, everyone who still has questions. Don't hesitate to reach out afterwards, even. But a couple of questions came in. So first one, we use now agents for customs clearance. How can we do this ourselves directly with customs? So who can we contact?
Well, yeah, you can always go directly with customs, but we tend to very much promote working with customs agents unless you have major knowledge about customs processes, and then we go back to one of the earlier slides, this one. You have to know everything about all these steps, and to be able to import, for example, or to export from in the EU, you need to be based, of course, in the EU. So if that's the case, you can contact customs to arrange a direct link, for example, with the customs system. There is also a web application, but it's, in all honesty, it's not the easiest thing to do. It's like if you have a major if you have a corporation, you probably will use tax agents, tax consultants to file your VAT, and that's the same thing with the customs matter. You will be using customs agents because probably they are cheaper than doing it yourself, or at least they have the knowledge you might lack. But if you have a certain scale and you wish to endeavor in those activities, it is possible.
Yeah, it depends a bit where you're based, but I know there are a lot of training possibilities in Belgium, and I suppose there are also in the UK, but we can find it out for you. So indeed, if it's our experience too, if smaller companies, for smaller companies, it's easier to work with an intermediary. And once you have a certain scale, then maybe you can dive into the team yourself. But it's really technical, so it would require a lot of training, or you would need to hire a specialist who already has this knowledge. Yeah. The next question. Is the UCN that is generated similar to the MRN, so the movement a reference number in the UK?
Yeah. I just, for the practical case, it was made together with HMRC, and they mentioned the UCN, and yeah, in Belgium and the EU it's always MRN, and I guess UCN and MRN are interchangeable on that matter.
Okay, thank you. And the next question is, so far no mention has been made of SPS, excuse me, SPS. Would you care to expand?
Yeah, but there's a reason for that. It's one of the things that is part of the customs declaration, but it's not really a customs matter, and I know that it sounds like an administrative answer of a public servant not wanting to have too much work on other matters. But I'll briefly introduce SPS matters using another slide that was in the presentation, but that we rather skipped very rapidly. And that's this one. So I told about the entry summary declaration having to be made, so that's by the shipping company, and then when the goods arrive, the first thing, if there is an entry into the European Union, you have to immediately arrange the SPS matters. So customs will not accept a customs declaration without the shed. So that's the SPS form. That's why, for example, you could place goods on the transit, T1 transit, and move them from a Belgian port, for example, to Italy. But you cannot do that with SPS goods because they have to be checked at the border control points, and that's the BCPs. We have 5 or 6 of them in Belgium. There are all over Europe. They are listed BCP ports, and they also say what kind of products you can handle there, which can be we can have the veterinary check, or which can't. For example, can you put live animals or just animal products through that BCP? That's a main difference between certain airports or ports. So once you have that shed, which is either physically or sometimes documentary, you can put in the number of that shed on your customs declaration, and afterwards it can be released for free circulation. But that's the interaction between SPS and the customs process. For a full understanding on SPS matter, for example, there is a webinar this afternoon, but this one is, of course, in Dutch. It's organized by Flanders Investment and Trade, but in Belgium, so in Dutch. But I guess Ilke might have additional information on SPS matters being organized by other instances. But in any case, SPS rules on the EU side have been the same since the 1st of January, and it's only the UK rules that are changing in the next 2 weeks. So it will be a point of attention for EU traders. And maybe you want to elaborate on that, Ilke?
Yes, so it depends a bit on the direction. As Jeroen said, SPS controls have been in place since the 1st of January. Excuse me, for goods coming in from the UK into the EU. All these arrangements have been installed directly. And vice versa. For export from the EU to the UK, the controls will come into place in October and January. I would say if you have specific questions around SPS, please reach out to us. We will. There's a website of the Belgian Food Safety Authority with also a lot of information in English that's available. But what I would say from a practical point of view and from based on the experience of our help desk is that communication is even more crucial when you deal with SPS goods. So Jeroen mentioned it before, communication is crucial, but also, you mentioned the border control posts. You also have to know your supply chain, know the route your goods are going through, because you have to pass these border control posts, and depending on which type of good, you can only pick certain border control posts. So when you're dealing with SPS goods, you really have to make sure that you know the routes, that you know where you can enter, and that you even communicate more with your logistics provider, with your partner on the other side of the channel. So that will be my main message here. But if you have really specific questions, reach out to us afterwards, and we're really happy to help dive into the question. That would be it for me. So please reach out to us. And then you have Stace from Berkel, who said, what's about the question about the training? So we do the customs declaration already in the UK as well. We do 200 loads a month to Belgium. I see that Jeroen has left. So it says if you're interested in training in Belgium, we will look to specific training on customs. I know there are a couple of instances providing this training. So we will get back this information to you. Astrid, in the meantime, I see that Jeroen has left.
I know. There's one last question. Can we receive the PowerPoint by email? We will send everything through, including the contact details of the speakers. So any further questions can be directed either to us, as in Flanders Investment and Trade, or to the speakers. You will also be sent the video, the recording of this. So there we go. Are there any further questions? I think we are done.
If I can just don't hesitate to reach out. We're here to help. We've helped already a lot of companies adapting to this new trade relationship. So don't hesitate. That would be my main message.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you very much for listening in, for joining the webinar. We will follow up with a further communication, the information, etc., contact details, and we would love to see you again in one of our webinars in the future. Thank you so much, and have a nice day. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.